Guys, Jeremy here at My Way MFG. I took this truck to the landfill the other day and dumped the trash off of it. Of all this stuff around here that I work on, this truck gets the least attention from me as anything. I never do anything with this except get in it and drive it. And over the last few years, it started needing some attention. I don't think I should wait any longer. I think we need to do a few things to this. Let me show you what I've got in mind. I bought this truck in 2007. I opened a plumbing business in 2008. You about got to have a truck like this if you're going to do contracting work. You got to have a way to haul junk off, trash. Anyway, when I first bought this, the front fenders were rusty, the cab and the doors. And what I did at that time is I found two good used front fenders. These two doors were actually off of a 91 one-ton. When they changed the body style in 88, the one-tons didn't change till 92. So these are actually the newest doors I could have found used, and they were in perfect condition at the time. And then I bought cab corners and rocker panels, and I welded on here. So when you look at it, it doesn't look too bad. Problem is, the rest of the cab is bad. It always has been, but it's gotten worse. To start with, to talk about the good, the front fenders are still good. The doors are still good. The hood is good. The radiator support's good. Frame rails are good. I've put new leaf springs on it, and all the U-bolts and the underneath hardware that the U-bolts go through. I don't know what them things are called. All that's been replaced, and I've put 6 new tires on it at the same time as I've done the leaf springs. All that's good, and it drives good, and it runs pretty good. We'll talk about that more here in a minute. We'll get closer, really look at this, but a lot of little things are needing fixed. And this cab is not in very good shape whatsoever. The patch panels aren't going to be big enough to reach all the bad areas. And when I dumped off that last load of scrap at the scrapyard, I asked Jason at the scrapyard, possibly, do you have a better cab? It might have been easier just to put a different cab on it and repaired it rather than try to fix this one. He didn't have one. And I imagine if anybody did have a good cab, it would probably be more money than I'd want to spend. So let's get under here and see what we're going to have to do. It's pretty rough. These rocker panels that I put on years ago are still basically good. I'm going to clean them up a little bit, make sure I get some new paint on them. But where I spliced in up there, I done all this with flux core, and they say you're not supposed to use flux core because it reacts or corrodes, but I don't see any indication of that. I never ground the welds down or finished anything off real nice. In fact, even the cab corner weld, I just painted over, but all of that looks good enough for what this truck is, So hopefully we can save all that stuff. The floor pans, when you buy them, it's the whole front section, and it has this corner made onto it right here. And that's where the floor pan's going to end. And the floor pan has the backing plate for the inner rocker. So that takes care of this area down through here. Up along the firewall up there, I got good solid metal, and that toe board reaches up far enough I'm going to be able to catch that in the same way on the inside. So that'll be a good weld across there and here and down through here. The kick panels I've got patched in with some thin metal and sheet metal screws, and I'll get some good 14 gauge in there and extend that down where it's rusty and get that welded solid there. So that shouldn't be too much of a problem. My problem is this area here. I can't find patch panels for that online anywhere. You can buy a whole complete floor, but they're about $600, and I wouldn't be able to get it in there correctly without going through a hell of a lot of work. What I would have to do is probably quarter it and put 4 individual pieces in. But instead of doing that, I think what I'll do is just cut this here on the flat up here where it's still good. Use that bead roller, sheet metal brake, and try to get this flange down here that I can weld back into the rocker. And we'll just call it good enough. This is never going to be a show truck anyway. And going underneath, this is where you can start to see how bad everything is. The floor pan is just completely gone in this body mount. Those come with the kit, so that'll all be new, and the floor pan will all be new, and these braces that go down through here also come with it. So everything you're seeing right here will be new. All of that gets replaced. And then might just go ahead and get a new body mount kit too. I doubt they're much money. And that should take care of all of this front stuff on both sides. That's where my inner fender comes down. That looks good. There's just this corner of the inner rocker left. All of that will be new. That comes clear up to this point here. We'll get this rocker cleaned back up. This area in here is what I worry about. It's in bad shape, and I'm just going to have to patch that up the best I can, I guess, and call it good enough. As far as the back cab mounts go, we can see them better from the other side. The doors have a little bit of rust starting right there in the middle. I think what I'll do there is just pour POR 15 in there. I'll get it blowed out and clean, and then just pour that stuff in there until it's just running out of the bottom. That stuff's kind of like penetrating oil anyway. And then right there where that rust is, I'll just grind that off and maybe fiberglass it. And that'll probably buy me quite a bit of time. I think both doors have just a little bit of that going on. And if they get worse, I'll just buy the door skins for them and weld new bottoms in them. But at this point in time, it's not worth doing that. I think just by patching them up a little bit, I'll probably quite a few more years out of it, which would be just fine with me. Anyway, let's look at this back cab mount. We can see it better from the other side here. That back cab mount, it needs cleaned up, but it's still pretty solid. There again, that'll buy us quite a bit of time. And then it's these upper parts of the floor pans that are, we get the seat and everything out of there so we can see everything better, and we're just going to have to just start welding patches in there until we get it, you know. But once again, cab corner and rocker are still good on this side, and I've tack welded this piece in here back when I put the rocker on, but it's gotten really bad. Basically, if I could have found a better cab, I would have wanted to find one that had all of this still good, where I just hadn't messed with the floor pans, but there ain't much holding this anymore. But when you get back there, everything don't look too bad. So just this section right here is going to cause me a little bit of problems, but it's probably only bad around the edges. And it's one of them things, after you get into it, it probably won't be as bad as it looks. The thing about doing this truck is I'm just trying to get it solid where it will last me so I can use it for work. I'm not trying to make it perfect, so we'll do the best we can on it. And my son's got a 77 he wants welded up and painted, and we got to try to do a real good job on that one. So I figure if we do this one first, it'll help us when we go to do the other one and make it nice, you know. When it comes to Colton's truck, that upper part of the floor that I was showing on mine, his is better, so that might not be too bad on his. There might be a little bit of patch here and there to go in that the floor pans won't reach, but nothing like this one. So yeah, this will be good experience, right? But anyway, I just had something come up, and I'm gonna have to run to Peoria We'll talk about the rest of this when I get back. I was wanting to show these cab mounts again on front. They make a repair sleeve that'll slide over all of this and cover that, but these are too bad to use a sleeve on. That sleeve would only be okay to use if this was a little bit rusty down in here, and this would still be okay. I'm well past that point, so these are going to have to come out, and in order to do that, I'm going to have to figure out a way to hold the cab up in the front corner while I take this out, or I'm going to lose my cab position up and down. And I might have to watch a YouTube video and see how other guys have done that. I suppose it might be just a matter of getting a jack under here somewhere and holding it up while I get this part replaced. But anyway, I wanted to take another look under here. I couldn't remember just how bad they were, but yeah, I'm well beyond the point of sleeving anything. And all of that's going to have to come out and get replaced. After getting the floors welded up, I think we'll get some of that weld through primer and put that on everything before we weld it, and then get everything all good in here and just coat it top and bottom with POR 15, and gosh, that ought to last the rest of my life, I think. Another thing I want to do though, while it's being worked on this winter, every one of these gauges has quit working. The gas gauge don't work, and that's got to get fixed. This truck needs a gas gauge. It doesn't get good enough mileage not to have one. The speedometer still works. Nothing else over here does, except for this oil pressure gauge that I replaced at some point. It's mechanical, so it works. But we've lost the volt gauge, the temperature gauge, and the gas gauge. And most likely we've lost a ground back there that probably takes care of all of that. But we need to look into that and see if we can get this stuff working. Another thing is, I'm driving down the road, it's making a growling noise that sounds like a dry bearing. And your first thought is a throwout bearing, but when you push the clutch in, it doesn't make any difference on the sound of it. And the noise quits when the truck quits rolling. It only makes a noise when the truck is moving. And I don't think I'm hearing a wheel or anything like that. It sounds too close. I think probably what it is either the speedometer cable is making that noise or the speedometer itself, I'm thinking. But an easy way to figure that out would be unhook the cable at the transmission and see if the noise goes away. And then see if we can figure out what's going on there. Another thing, when I was doing them leaf springs and tires, I did put all new brakes on this, so all the brakes are good. Really no rust on the fenders or the doors. Rockers and cab corners are good. Frame rails are like excellent condition. There's nothing wrong with them, which is amazing. All really. Of these new trucks have terrible frames anymore. There's a lot of let's say 2010, 2014s that are so rusty they're not even drivable. A lot of them went to the junkyard. These new truck frames just do not last here in the Rust Belt, like in Illinois. And what they've done is, all these new trucks, they've made the engines go 300,000 miles, which is great, but the frames don't last over about 10 years. So what good does that do anybody? And the reason they've messed these up is for gas mileage. They've tried to make them lighter to get better gas mileage. I do not care about 1 or 2 miles to the gallon in my gas mileage if I am paying $60,000 for a new truck and the frame rusts out in 10 years. It makes no sense. And they need to, when they were building this truck behind me, they had the frames perfect. I don't think they ever made a better frame than what's under a C30 Chevy truck of that era. And that's why if you have one of these, you really need to try to keep it on the road, because let's say 2010, that truck looked exactly like it does now in 2010. It looks no different whatsoever. And if somebody had bought a brand new 2010 one-ton very likely right now this one's in better shape than it is underneath. So I'm going to save it. I mean, why would I not? But talking more about these truck frames and what they've done to them, are they rusting out because they're not as thick? Well, yes and no. That's part of the problem. They are much lighter, not near as thick, but it's rust resistance is the main problem here. If you look at the frame underneath that old C30, it really doesn't have any rust on it. It's not a matter of it's rusty, but it's thick enough that it's able to stay strong. There's not really any rust there. And I was doing some reading about this one time, and what it is that old steel, like's in that C30 truck frame, if you look at it on a molecular level, the molecules are straight. In order to make these truck frames lighter, they've cross-linked the steel molecules, which they can keep them stronger like that and be thinner. But they have no rust resistance. After they start to rust, they just rust clear through. So by cross-linking those steel molecules and making them stronger, they've done away with all the natural rust resistance that steel has. Whereas if you look at like that old C30 ton, the only place on that frame that there would be any rust at all would be where there were two overlapping pieces of metal, like underneath of a shackle mount or something, or a cross member where moisture can get in between the two pieces. Whereas on a newer truck frame, they just rust clear through everywhere. They just turn to powder. And they need to quit doing that. They need to just make the frames like they used to. I mean, how much gas mileage could they possibly be saving, you know? You save a couple 100 pounds in weight, but you throw a couple 100 pounds in the back or a person in the passenger seat, you're right back to where you were. Just put good frames under the trucks again, you know? And especially with as expensive as they are, nobody wants to spend this kind of money and live in a place like Illinois and not have the truck frame last. And the only way around that is to just get a new truck every 2 years, and that's what they want you to do. Anyway, it just pisses me off, really. I said here a little earlier on that this truck was running pretty good. I was kind of hesitant in saying that. The reason I won't say it runs good right now is this had an Edelbrock 1405 on it, which is a 600 CFM carburetor with a manual choke. The idle circuits got plugged up and the truck wouldn't idle. So in trying to take the top off the carburetor to clean it, about 3 of the screws broke off in the carburetor. So rather than continue messing with that, I had another Edelbrock carburetor here that I'd bought off a friend of mine. It was also a 600 CFM carburetor, but it was an electric choke. It's a 1406, whereas the other one was a 1405. But I bolted it on here and idles good now. But when he had that carburetor, he had it on a dual intake manifold. It was a dual carb intake, and he was building a hot rod with it. And what he had done is he had changed the metering rods and the jets in it to jet it down for the 2 carburetor applications. So I'm way lean right now. And I get to them big hills out on the highway, especially when I'm loaded. You get 3 or 4 ton on the back of here, I can barely get to the top of the hills. And as long as this will come apart without the screws breaking off, I think all I got to do is get a kit that's got all of the jets and metering rods in it and get it running a little richer. And I don't have the electric choke hooked up. I still need to do that. So it's kind of hard to start on these cold days. But anyway, let's start this up, and I want to show you something else. And we'll get to that carburetor problem this winter, I'm hoping. Got her started up. One other problem that I gotta get fixed while we're doing this. This box will go up real good, but over the last few years it just keeps coming down slower and slower. I'm worried I'm going to get off somewhere and it's not going to come down at all. Let me show you. Goes up just fine. Grab the camera off the stand and show you these frame rails while the box is up. They're in perfect shape. Absolutely no rust on them whatsoever. And this truck sits outside. It's probably never been in the garage in its life. Anyway, I'm gonna push the lever to let this back down. You should be able to see the problem. Other than I'm trying to film it right now, so it'll probably work perfect, but let's see. Just push the lever to let the pressure off. And what was that, a couple minutes? They're supposed to come down slow, you know, they're dangerous if they come down too fast, but this truck didn't used to be that slow. Something I think is plugged up there. I've read that there's a check valve that sits on a seat that when you engage it to lift it, it pushes the check ball off the seat and it lifts it. But the check valve ball has a hole drilled in it, and when it's seated, the fluid has to pass through that hole, and that meters it so it'll come down slow. And I'm wondering if that hole ain't plugged up with sludge. And 2 cylinders, is it one check valve or 2? I don't know where it's located at. I just don't know. Never worked on much hydraulics, so I'm gonna have to do some research on that and maybe just flush it out and put new fluid in it. I don't know. But so anyway, I think my plans on this for this winter, like to get new floors in it, maybe do a little bit of body work on the cab and the front, you know, throw a little cheap paint on it, possibly. I don't know. I want to get all the gauges working, I want to get the carburetor fixed, and I want to get the hydraulics fixed on the bed. I've got 2 tires that are leaking air around the bead. I got to pump them up every time I go to use it. I'd like to get them fixed. And speaking of that, here's what happened to me. I went to the landfill, I think it was Friday, Thursday or Friday, can't remember. But anyway, I drive clear up there. It's, 40 minutes north of here. I drive clear up there, and while I'm unstrapping the tarps and stuff, I'm kind of leaning over and crawling around and getting my straps unhooked. I get my load dumped. I cross the scales to pull out, and I had one of them hoodies on with the front kangaroo pocket thing on it, I reach in there for my cigarettes and lighter, and they're gone. And I thought, they fell out of my pocket while I was unhooking them straps. I'm never going to find them back there. There's no reason to even go look. So I thought, I'm just going to have to drive all the way home without my cigarettes. No big deal. But where's my cell phone? I can't find my cell phone either. I figure it's got to have been in that same pocket. I've just lost my cell phone in the landfill. I'm never going to find it back there. So I drove all the way home and drove to my daughter's house, knocked on the door. She came out and I said, I think I've lost my cell phone at the landfill. We need to call Carol, see how I'm going to have to go about getting a new one. My daughter checked my location on this Life 360 alert thing, and my cell phone was pinging here at my house. Not at the landfill, but here. And I thought, maybe there's a chance, So I come home here, and when I pull up, I park the truck right where it was at before I'd left that morning, and I got to thinking, I had got down on the ground and checked the air pressure in the tires before I left, and sure enough, it had slipped out of my pocket while I was doing that. And where I'd parked the truck when I came back, if I would have drove ahead another 16 inches, I would have ran over my cell phone. It was literally laying right like that. So luckily it was there and not at the landfill, because I surely thought it was after I couldn't find them cigarettes. But I drove clear up there, never even reached for it, to realize I didn't have it. So that was good. Anyway, God was with me there on that deal. Anyway, I think it's going to do it for this video. And yeah, this thing just needs a little attention. And I want to show you one last thing. And looking underneath that cab, I know a lot of you are thinking, man, that thing is awful. I mean, couldn't you find a better cab? I probably could, but by the time I spent the money for it and tried to locate one and everything, I just want to show you this. I saved this and screwed it to the wall. That is part of my floorboard that came out of my 44 at Eliza here a couple years ago. Welded all new floors in this car and redone the cowls and the A pillars and the B pillars, and then the following year we done the same to the trunk, which was probably even worse. But what I'm getting at, all of that stuff looks really bad when you first start. And what ends up happening, as you start getting the old stuff cut out and thrown away, and you start coming up with a game plan, it never is as bad as it looks. After all the old stuff is gone and thrown away, it's just you just got to start on it, I guess is what I'm saying. And after you get started, it'll tell you what needs to happen. You'll get it. But if you want to watch the videos of the floor pans going into 44, they're on the YouTube channel. Just look under the Eliza playlist, and it was every bit as bad as the 1 ton is. So it turned out nice, and the 1 ton I think will also. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, share, all them things. We'll catch you on the next one. Later. Jeremy.